Young millionaire married a homeless girl to escape an arranged marriage until he learned who she really was. Hello, everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support truly means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let us return to our main character. The rain poured over downtown Manhattan, heavy enough to blur the city lights into streaks of gold. Inside a black limousine parked near the curb, Alex Carter, a 29-year-old millionaire and heir to Carter Holdings, sat in silence. The meeting with his father had ended in an ultimatum: marry the daughter of their business partner by Friday or lose the family company forever. His reflection in the window looked like a stranger. Tailored suit, tired eyes, heart pounding with rebellion. He loosened his tie and whispered, "A marriage for business? Not a chance." His driver glanced through the rearview mirror. "Sir, should I take you home?" "No," Alex said quietly. "Just drive." Blocks away, under a flickering streetlight, a young woman huddled beneath a soaked blanket. Her name was Leah Hudson, though no one knew it anymore. She had been living on the street for months after her father's death and the fire that destroyed her home. Her shoes were worn through. Her hands trembled around a paper cup half filled with rainwater. The world passed her by without looking. When the limousine slowed for a red light, Alex saw her. A figure too fragile against the storm, yet sitting with a kind of quiet dignity that struck him. He told the driver to stop, opened the door, and stepped into the rain. The thunder drowned the sound of his footsteps until he was standing right in front of her. "Do you have anywhere to go?" he asked. She blinked up, startled, her voice hoarse. "Shelter's full. I will manage." He studied her for a long moment, rain dripping from his hair onto his collar. Then, without warning, he said the words that would change both their lives. "Marry me." She froze, staring at him as if he had lost his mind. He continued, tone steady, eyes unreadable. "I am serious. I need to get married by this weekend. It is not about love. It is a contract. 2 weeks. You will have food, a place to stay, and money to start again afterward." Her jaw tightened. "So you are buying a wife?" "I am buying time," he replied. For a moment, neither spoke, the sound of rain filling the space between them. Leah's voice was soft but fierce. "I do not sell myself for comfort, mister. Whatever your name is," he exhaled, almost amused by her courage. "Carter! Alex Carter!" Something flickered in her eyes when she heard the name, but she said nothing. Alex turned to leave, but her voice stopped him. "Wait." She hesitated, pulling her blanket tighter. "If this is truly a contract, what are the terms?" A slow, astonished smile crossed his face. "In my car," he said. "We will discuss the details." As they walked toward the limousine, the rain softened, as if the storm itself knew a deal had just been struck, one that would begin as a lie and end as the truth neither of them expected. The limousine door closed with a soft click, and for the first time in weeks, Leah felt warmth on her skin. The leather seat beneath her smelled faintly of cedar and rain. Across from her, Alex Carter sat with the calm of a man who had just made a life-changing decision and refused to question it. He pulled a folder from his briefcase and laid it on the seat between them. "Here is the contract," he said evenly. 14 days. You attend several family events with me, wear the ring when required, and keep our agreement strictly confidential. When it ends, you will receive enough money to start over, no strings attached." Leah stared at the papers. Her fingers hovered above the pen but did not touch it. "Why me?" she asked quietly. Alex met her eyes. "Because you have nothing to gain from me except shelter. That makes you the only person I can trust." The honesty in his tone disarmed her. She leaned back, her heartbeat loud in her ears. "You could have picked anyone." "I did," he said, glancing toward the rain-soaked window, and she said no. For a long moment, the only sound was the hum of the car engine and the soft patter of rain. Then Leah took the pen, her voice trembling. "I will not be your decoration, Mr. Carter." He nodded once. "Good. I do not need a decoration. I need a partner for 2 weeks. Her signature spread slowly across the paper, the ink bleeding where her hand shook. When they reached his penthouse, the elevator opened into a space larger than any shelter she had ever seen. Glass walls revealed the night skyline, and every surface gleamed with quiet wealth. She hesitated at the doorway, dripping water onto marble floors. Alex handed her a towel. "You can use the guest room at the end of the hall. Tomorrow morning, my assistant will bring clothes suitable for public events." Leah took the towel but did not move. "You live alone in all this?" He looked around as if seeing it for the first time. Yes, alone fits the brand. That night, Leah lay awake in the guest room, listening to the city's hum. The sheets were soft, the air warm, but her chest felt heavy. She whispered to herself, "You signed it, Leah. 2 weeks, then you disappear." Oh, across the hall, Alex stood by the window, looking down at the quiet street below. His father's words echoed in his head. "A Carter does not follow his heart. He follows legacy." He loosened his cuffs and murmured, "We will see about that." The next morning, sunlight poured into the penthouse. Alex was already dressed when Leah stepped out, wearing a simple dress his assistant had brought. It fit awkwardly, but her eyes were steady. "You look presentable," Alex said, half teasing. "Do not worry," she replied dryly. "I remember my lines." He smiled, the first genuine one since the night before. "Good. Our first event is dinner with my parents tonight. Consider it your first test." As they walked toward the elevator, Leah asked softly, "And what if I fail your test?" Alex glanced at her reflection in the mirrored wall. "Then you will remind them why I married you in the first place, because sometimes a little chaos is exactly what this family needs." The elevator doors closed, sealing them inside together, two strangers bound by paper and pride, unaware that the next 14 days would turn their contract into something neither could control. The Carter family mansion stood on the edge of Long Island, surrounded by manicured gardens and the distant sound of waves. That evening, Leah followed Alex through the grand foyer, her steps careful on the polished floor. Every chandelier sparkled like an accusation. Mrs. Carter was the first to rise when they entered. Elegant and sharp-eyed, she looked Leah over from head to toe. "So this is your wife," she said, her voice calm but edged. "You certainly made an unconventional choice." Leah swallowed but kept her chin up. "It was rather sudden," she said softly, "but I am grateful for Alex's kindness." Mr. Carter, seated at the head of the table, did not even hide his disapproval. "Alex, I hope you understand what this does to our image. The board is already questioning your judgment." Alex placed a steady hand on Leah's shoulder. "Father, our marriage is not a business merger. It is my decision. Respect it." The silence that followed was heavy. Servants began serving dinner, and the faint clinking of silverware filled the room. Leah's fork trembled slightly, but she forced herself to meet Mrs. Carter's gaze. "So, Leah," Mrs. Carter said smoothly, "where did you two meet?" Leah hesitated, recalling the line Alex had given her earlier. "At a charity event," she said. "I was. Volunteering." Mrs. Carter smiled without warmth. "How admirable. Which charity was that?" Alex cut in before Leah could answer. "Mother, does it matter?" She helped when no one else did. His tone made it clear that the subject was closed. Dinner continued under polite tension. When dessert arrived, a young woman in a red gown approached their table. Her perfume reached them before she spoke. "Alex," she said with practiced sweetness, "you did not tell me you were married." Leah looked up to see Clara Vance, the daughter of the very partner Alex's father had chosen for him. Clara's smile did not reach her eyes. "It happened quickly," Alex said, his tone measured. "Clara, this is my wife, Leah." Leah extended a hand. "It is nice to meet you." Clara's handshake was soft but cold. "Likewise. I suppose congratulations are in order. Though I must say, the tabloids will have a field day." Alex's jaw tightened. "Good evening, Clara." When they finally left the mansion, Leah exhaled the breath she had been holding all night. "So that was your ex-fiancé," she said quietly. He nodded, sliding into the car. "She was never my choice. My father arranged it to protect the company." Leah looked out the window, the moonlight washing over her face. "And now you have me instead, a stranger with nothing to lose." "Ugh." Alex glanced at her reflection in the glass. "Maybe that is exactly what I needed, someone who owes me nothing." As they drove through the dark road back to Manhattan, the tension between them shifted. It was no longer just an agreement of convenience. It was something fragile and unspoken, two wounded souls pretending not to care, while the world outside began to whisper their names. In the distance, the city lights returned, bright and relentless. Neither of them knew that the next event on their calendar would test not only their contract, but also the limits of their hearts. The next few days moved like scenes from a play Leah had never rehearsed for. Each morning began with Alex's assistant arriving at the penthouse, arms full of designer dresses, schedules, and instructions. Leah tried to memorize names, gestures, and the subtle etiquette that came so naturally to the people around Alex. By the third day, she was exhausted. Every smile felt rehearsed, every word measured. She missed the simplicity of the streets, where truth needed no disguise. That afternoon, Alex found her in the living room, sitting barefoot on the floor surrounded by open boxes of shoes. She was trying to clip the tag from a pair of heels with a butter knife. He paused at the doorway, suppressing a smile. You know, most people use scissors. She looked up, her expression dry. Most people are not me. These shoes cost more than I made in a year. I do not want to ruin them. Alex crossed the room, crouching beside her. You cannot ruin them by living in them, Leah. His tone was soft, almost unfamiliar. For the first time, she saw something different behind his calm exterior, a man who was tired of pretending, just like her. Later that evening, they attended a small charity gala, hosted by one of Alex's partners. The ballroom glittered with gold and glass, and the crowd turned when they entered. Cameras flashed. Reporters murmured. Remember, Alex whispered as they posed for a photograph. Smile when they say my name. You are not a secret, you are a headline. Leah forced a steady smile, though her heart raced. When a waiter brushed past her with a tray of champagne, she reached for a glass and accidentally knocked it against another guest's sleeve. Oh my, I am so sorry, she said quickly. The man sneered. I see Alex's new wife is as graceful as her background suggests. The room went still. Leah froze, humiliation burning her cheeks. But before she could speak, Alex stepped forward. Watch your tone, he said coldly. My wife has more class in her apology than you have in your entire career. Gasps rippled through the crowd. The man muttered something under his breath and walked away. Leah stood motionless until Alex turned back to her. Are you all right? She nodded, barely holding back tears. You did not have to defend me. Yes, he said, voice low but firm. I did. After the event, they drove home in silence. The city lights flickered across the windshield like restless stars. When they reached the penthouse, Leah stopped him at the door. Why did you do that? She asked. You could have ignored it. Alex met her eyes. Because I am tired of letting people treat you like you do not belong here. Her breath caught. And do I? He hesitated, then said quietly, You belong wherever you decide to stand. For a moment, neither spoke. The air between them shifted, no longer employer and employee, not yet lovers, but something fragile and alive. When Leah finally went to her room, she closed the door and leaned against it, hand over her chest. The sound of his voice lingered in her mind. Somewhere between the lies and the lights, the contract had begun to feel dangerously real. The morning after the gala began with an uneasy silence. Leah stood by the window of the penthouse, watching fog roll across the skyline. The night before kept replaying in her mind Alex's voice, sharp and protective, the way he had looked at her afterward, as if she were more than a contract written in ink. When Alex walked into the room, he was already dressed for work, his tie perfectly aligned, his expression unreadable. You have done well, he said. The media response from last night was surprisingly positive. They called you authentic. Leah gave a small, ironic laugh. Authentic? They would not think so if they knew the truth. Alex's tone softened. The truth is complicated. Sometimes pretending is easier than being honest. She turned toward him. And what about you, Alex? What is your truth? For a moment he did not answer. Then he said quietly, that I do not want to become my father. The admission hung in the air like a secret neither of them had planned to share. Before she could respond, the intercom buzzed. Alex pressed the button, and his assistant's voice came through. Sir, the board meeting begins in 1 hour. Also, Miss Vance has requested to see you. His jaw tightened. Tell her I am unavailable. That evening, another event awaited them, a dinner celebrating the Carter Foundation's new scholarship program. It was to be Leah's first public speech as Alex's wife. The thought made her hands tremble. You do not have to do this, Alex said as he adjusted his cufflinks. I can handle it. Leah shook her head. No. You said I was your partner. Partners do not hide. When they arrived, the ballroom was filled with donors, journalists, and investors. Alex stood beside her as the host announced their names. Flashbulbs erupted again, but this time Leah stood taller. At the podium, she looked out at the sea of faces. "When I was young," she began, her voice clear but trembling, "I thought success meant wealth, but now I see that kindness can change more lives than money ever will." There was a murmur of approval, followed by applause. Alex's eyes softened with something close to pride. Afterward, as the crowd mingled, Clara appeared again, her red gown brighter than before. "Impressive speech," she said with a thin smile. "I almost believed it." Leah met her chaza steadily. "Then maybe you should listen harder next time." Clara's smile faltered, but she quickly recovered. "You will not last, Leah. The press loves a scandal, and your past is full of them." Alex stepped between them, his voice calm but firm. "That is enough, Clara." He turned to Leah. "Let us go." As they left the event, the cool night air rushed around them. Leah looked up at the stars and exhaled. "I did not expect defending myself to feel this good." Alex smiled faintly. "Get used to it. The world does not hand out respect. You have to earn it." She glanced at him, her voice softer. "And what about love? Do we have to earn that too?" Alex did not answer. His eyes lingered on her face, on the courage she did not know she had. Somewhere deep down, a boundary shifted. What had begun as a deal to escape tradition was slowly turning into the very thing he had been running from, a marriage that felt real. That night, neither of them slept easily. The line between contract and connection had blurred, and both knew there was no going back. The rain returned 2 nights later, steady and soft against the penthouse windows. Alex sat alone in his office, surrounded by blueprints and contracts he no longer cared about. His phone buzzed with messages from the board, but he ignored them all. Across the hall, Leah was painting again. She had found an old set of brushes in one of the storage rooms and used them to fill her quiet hours. The smell of turpentine and color drifted through the air, strangely comforting. When Alex finally stepped out of his office, he found her sitting cross-legged on the floor, a canvas balanced on her knees. She did not notice him at first. The brush moved carefully, tracing a faint skyline under a wash of gray. He watched in silence before saying softly, "You paint New York like it is alive." She jumped slightly, then smiled. "Maybe because it is. Even when people forget me, the city never does." He crossed the room and looked closer. "Is that the bridge near Riverside?" She nodded. "It is where I used to sleep sometimes. It is strange. When you have nowhere to go, the sound of the river becomes your lullaby." Alex's expression changed something between guilt and admiration. "You survived all that alone?" "Yes," she said simply. "But surviving is not the same as living." For a while, they stood quietly, the rain tapping against the glass. Then Alex reached into his pocket and placed a folded handkerchief on the table beside her. Embroidered initials glimmered under the lamp. AC. He hesitated before speaking. "My mother gave this to me when I graduated. She said I would need it when I finally stopped pretending to be fine. I think you might need it more than I do." Leah stared at him, unsure how to respond. "Why are you being kind to me, Alex?" He met her eyes. "Because I want to be. No contracts, no reasons." The room went still. Leah felt the familiar wall around her heart begin to crack. She looked away quickly, pretending to focus on her painting. "Careful," she whispered. "You sound almost human." He laughed quietly, shaking his head. "Do not tell anyone." Later that night, she carried her finished painting to the balcony. It was a portrait of the city at dawn, soft light over broken rooftops. A single figure standing by the bridge. Alex joined her, holding 2 cups of coffee. "You did this in one evening?" he asked. She nodded. "I paint better when it rains. Maybe because it reminds me that nothing lasts forever, not even storms." He handed her the cup. Then maybe we both needed the rain. Their hands brushed, and for a brief moment, neither pulled away. The world outside faded, the city hum, the thunder, even the cold. There was only that fragile space between them, charged and silent. Finally, Leah stepped back, her voice trembling. "We should not. It was never part of the deal." Alex looked at her steadily. "Maybe it should have been." She turned away, but her heartbeat betrayed her. Behind her, Alex stood in the doorway, the rainlight glinting in his eyes. For the first time, the contract that bound them felt like the smallest part of what they had become. The next morning broke with sunlight that felt too calm, as if the world was holding its breath. Alex was already gone when Leah woke up. On the kitchen counter lay a note in his precise handwriting. Meeting with the board. Back by noon. Underneath it, he had left a single white rose. She smiled faintly, unsure whether to call it kindness or guilt. She touched the petals gently before making herself a cup of coffee. The penthouse felt too quiet without him. Hours passed before the peace shattered. The doorbell rang, followed by hurried knocks. When Leah opened the door, a woman stood there, Clara Vance, flawless in a cream coat and dark sunglasses. Her smile was polished but poisonous. "Good morning, Mrs. Carter," Clara said smoothly. "Do you mind if I come in? I promise I will not stay long." Leah hesitated, then stepped aside. "What do you want, Clara?" Clara removed her glasses, her eyes glinting with amusement. "I came to deliver a warning. The press is about to publish an article about you. Apparently, one of your old records resurfaced something about unpaid rent, trespassing on private property, even a mugshot. It will not look good for a Carter." Leah's breath caught. "That was a misunderstanding. I was homeless. They arrested me for sleeping near a closed shelter." Clara tilted her head. "Tragic, really. But the public will not care about context. Alex's father will use it to dissolve your marriage. He never wanted you here, you know." Leah steadied herself, gripping the back of a chair. "You planted this, did you not?" Clara smiled. "I simply accelerated what was inevitable. Men like Alex get bored. When he realizes you cannot save his image, he will let you go." Before Leah could respond, Alex's voice echoed from the doorway. "You are wrong, Clara." Both women turned. He stood there, rain still dripping from his coat, his expression unreadable but dangerous. "Get out," he said quietly. Clara lifted her chin. "You think you can protect her from your own family? From the media?" Alex stepped closer. "I do not think. I know." Clara's smile faltered, but she held her posture. "Then prepare for the fallout. The board will demand an explanation." She brushed past him, perfume trailing like smoke, and left the door swinging open behind her. Silence filled the room. Leah stared at the floor, her voice barely a whisper. "She is right. This will ruin you." Alex took off his coat and tossed it onto the couch. "Let them try." "Alex," she said, stepping closer, "you cannot fight everyone for me." He looked at her, eyes dark with frustration and something deeper. "You think I am doing this out of pity?" She shook her head. "I do not know anymore." He moved toward her until they were only inches apart. "I am doing this because I cannot stand watching you be humiliated by people who think they own me." Her heart pounded. "Then what happens when they turn on you?" "Then I will stand beside you," he said simply. For a moment, Leah could not speak. She felt the sting of tears but refused to let them fall. "You do not even realize what you are risking." Alex's tone softened. "Maybe it is about time I risked something that matters." Outside, thunder rolled again. The storm had returned, carrying the same electric charge that had started their story. Leah turned away, afraid that if she met his eyes for too long, she would forget every promise she made to protect herself. But deep down, she knew that the storm was not coming for them anymore. It was already inside. By the next day, every major news outlet had picked up the story. The headlines flashed across television screens and phone notifications alike. Millionaire Alex Carter's wife exposed, homeless past revealed. Reporters crowded the entrance to the Carter building, shouting questions that blurred into noise. From his office on the top floor, Alex stood by the window, jaw tight as his phone rang for the 10th time. His father's name glowed on the screen. He answered anyway. "Do you have any idea what you have done, mister?" Carter's voice thundered through the line. "Our stocks are dropping, the board is furious, and that woman has turned us into a scandal." "She has a name," Alex said quietly. "Names do not matter when reputations burn. End this marriage immediately, or I will call an emergency meeting and remove you from your position." Alex closed his eyes, gripping the phone until his knuckles whitened. "Then do it," he said. "I will not divorce her." There was a long pause on the other end, then the cold click of disconnection. Downstairs, Leah sat alone in the cafe across the street, hidden behind a newspaper. Her picture was everywhere, the girl in the tattered coat who had somehow married a billionaire. She felt the weight of every stare, every whisper. When the first flash of a camera caught her from the doorway, she dropped a few bills on the table and left quickly, pulling her hood low. Back at the penthouse, Alex found her packing a small bag. "What are you doing?" he demanded. "I am ending this before your family destroys you," she said without looking at him. "They will never forgive you if you stay with me." He stepped forward, anger flickering beneath the surface. "Do not decide my life for me, Leah." "I am not deciding," she said softly. "I am freeing you." Her hands shook as she zipped the bag. Alex caught her wrist gently but firmly. "Look at me." When she finally did, his voice broke. "Do you really think walking away will fix this? The world already hates me for loving you. Let me at least earn the reason." Tears welled in her eyes, but she shook her head. "You do not love me. You feel guilty because I ruined your name." Alex exhaled sharply, then reached into his pocket. He pulled out the crumpled marriage contract, the one they had both signed that first night. Without another word, he tore it down the middle, the sound echoing through the quiet room. "You think this piece of paper made me care about you?" he said. "I am done pretending this was ever just a deal." Leah froze, her heart pounding. "Alex..." But before she could say more, the penthouse intercom buzzed loudly. His assistant's panicked voice came through. "Sir, the board has called an emergency session. They are voting to remove you as CEO." Alex's eyes met hers. "Then let them." Within the hour, news broke that Alex Carter had resigned from Carter Holdings, refusing to denounce his wife. Cameras captured him walking out of the building, hand in hand with Leah, past the reporters and the chaos. When they reached the street, he stopped, his voice calm but certain. "They wanted a scandal. Let us give them a story worth remembering." He pulled her close, kissed her under the flashing lights, and whispered, "No more hiding." The crowd roared, half in shock, half in awe. For the first time since their strange beginning, Leah no longer felt invisible. She was standing beside a man who had given up everything for the truth and for her. The rain started again, washing over them like a quiet promise that this, finally, was real. 6 months later, spring returned to New York, washing the city in soft light and new beginnings. The scandal that once filled every headline had long faded, replaced by fresh gossip and newer faces. Yet for Alex and Leah, life had found a quiet rhythm beyond the noise. The morning sun spilled into their small art studio in Soho, where the walls were lined with Leah's paintings. Each one told a story of survival and grace, a reflection of the streets that once sheltered her. Alex, sleeves rolled up, was helping hang a new canvas near the front display. His hands were clumsy with the hammer, and Leah could not help but laugh. "You know, for someone who used to run a multi-million-dollar company, you are terrible with nails," she teased. He grinned. "That is because these walls actually matter. The boardroom never did." The bell above the door jingled, and a group of students stepped inside, drawn by the sign that read, "The Hudson Foundation, Free Art Workshops for the Unhoused and Underprivileged." Leah greeted them warmly, handing out brushes and paint. Alex watched her with quiet pride. "You have turned this into something incredible," he said. She glanced back at him, smiling softly. "We turned it into something real. You gave up everything to stand by me. I could not let that be for nothing." He shook his head. "I did not give up anything worth keeping. I gained you." The moment hung between them, tender and still. Outside, the city buzzed with life, unaware that inside this modest studio stood two people who had rebuilt themselves from ruin. That evening, they hosted a small gallery event, the first under Leah's name. Guests admired the artwork, many unaware that the woman in the simple white dress greeting them had once been the homeless girl from those old tabloid photos. Near the center of the gallery hung one special piece, a painting of a bridge at dawn, the same place where Alex had first found her. Beneath it, framed in glass, was the torn marriage contract. The paper was yellowed now, but still visible, the signatures faint, yet permanent. When the crowd thinned, Alex approached her quietly. "You kept it," he said. Leah nodded. "It was the beginning of everything, even if it started as a lie." He took her hand. "Then let us rewrite it properly this time." From his jacket pocket, he pulled out a small velvet box. Inside was a simple gold ring, elegant and unpretentious. "No conditions, no timelines, just us." Tears filled her eyes as she whispered, "Yes." The guests nearby turned as Alex slid the ring onto her finger. Applause rose softly, mingling with the faint sound of city traffic outside. Later that night, they stood on the studio balcony, the skyline shimmering before them. Alex wrapped his arm around her shoulders, and Leah rested her head against him. "Do you ever miss that old life?" she asked. He looked out at the horizon, where the last traces of sunlight met the river. "Not for a second." Because the moment I met you, I stopped chasing power and started finding peace." She smiled through quiet tears. Then maybe storms do bring people home after all. The city lights flickered like stars, and in that stillness, the story that had begun with a contract ended with a promise real, unspoken, and forever theirs.